So back when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, I used to sleep over my grandparents' house a lot. But this one particular time in January brings back some scary memories. My dad and I ran into our house while my mom and little brother waited in the car. He told me to go get what I wanted for when I stayed over while he was on a phone call with a customer. I only need one thing to take with me, and that was my favorite stuffed animal, Woof Woof, that I've had since I was maybe 1. Anyways, I was bored and looked out the kitchen window into our backyard and just waved, because why the hell not? Kids do the weirdest things. However, the creepy part sets in when I see a hand with a pair of black gloves wave back from behind a tree. So my natural instinct is to get my dad, but he just told me to stop tugging on his pant leg. Well, as luck would have it, we forgot to arm the alarm system, and we went out for the rest of the night until they dropped me off for my weekend at my grandparents'. Maybe 20 minutes go by and we get a phone call from my parents saying that our house got broken into. We were all upset because it was just after the holidays, so it really sucked. But the strange part about the whole experience was that whoever broke into the house targeted certain rooms: my parents' room, the living room, my dad's office, and the laundry room of all places. They left the kids' rooms alone. There were at least 5 or 6 full piggy banks that had cash and change in them. Till this day, it scares me that it might happen again. The lesson I learned from this whole mystery was to always turn the alarm on. A few weeks ago, on a Saturday night, I let my dog Riley into the backyard. He was out there for about 10 minutes or so. I opened the back door to call him inside. He didn't come inside, which was weird because he usually did. So I closed the back door and waited. After about 5 or so minutes, I opened the back door to let him in. "Riley," I called. No response. "Riley, come inside. Night night." Again, no response. This is where things get weird. I whistled for him, and then, from the other side of the yard, I heard someone whistle back, the same exact whistle I had whistled. "What the fuck?" I muttered under my breath. I thought it was just my imagination, so I whistled again. And again, the person whistled back. I shut the door and locked it. I went to my grandparents' bedroom and looked out the window. I saw nothing. I went back to the kitchen where the back door was and flipped the porch light on. I went back to the bedroom and looked out the window. Again, there was nothing to be seen. After that, I decided to go to the living room and tell my grandparents what happened. My grandpa told me to grab a flashlight and Riley's leash and check it out. He said the whistling was probably just the neighbors across the alley. I grabbed a flashlight and Riley's leash and turned the porch light off because I was afraid of what I might see with it on. So afraid that I didn't even plan to use a flashlight. I am a small and skinny 16-year-old male, and I am not that good at fighting. As soon as I stepped out into the cold, dark night, I wished I would have gone to my room and grabbed my baseball bat. Slowly, I began my descent down the porch steps. I know I am sounding like a little wuss in this story, but this shit is scary. I stopped on the second to last step and looked around the yard. I finally got enough courage to call out, "Riley?" I called. Then right from behind me, I heard a soft voice whisper, "Riley." I turned to see a face peering at me from under the porch. I couldn't even scream. The face peering at me was a crazed face. Looked like a crackhead, which is common where I live. I ran up a few stairs, kicked the dude in the face through the spaces between them so he couldn't grab at me, and ran inside. I told my grandpa what happened and he got his gun and came back out with me. We searched the whole yard. No sign of the crazy guy, nor my dog Riley. The back gate was wide open and there was blood on the stair that the man's face was at. The blood was from me kicking him. The cops were called, of course. I explained everything to them. After the cops spoke to me, they left. Haven't heard anything from them since. The next morning, we found Riley standing in a random driveway, which was good. My guess as to what happened is that the crazy man was already in my yard when I let Riley out, and he was on some other side of the yard where Riley didn't notice him. Riley must have discovered that the gate was open and left to wander around. It was a pretty terrifying experience, and I am glad that my dog wasn't hurt. This happened this summer, around the 4th of July. My family has a camper in rural Wisconsin. Many of my friends also have campers in the same campground. One night, about 7 of us, ages 11 and 16, all decided to cram into a single golf cart and ride along some creepy trails in the woods. It was pretty late, past 10, so it was pitch black outside. The gold cart had a headlight and a few of us brought flashlights, but other than that, we couldn't see a thing. We got quite deep into the woods at one point, and being the oldest of the group, I suggested we start heading back. I just got a bad feeling in my gut and couldn't shake it. I believe my brother was driving the cart. He wanted to keep going and ignored me. By this point, some of my friends were fooling around, jumping off the sides of the cart and stuff. Me and another girl were the only ones sitting on the back of the cart at this point, when we see a tall man jump out from behind a large bush. He had on a dirty baseball cap, so we couldn't really see his face that well, and it was also super dark. My heart dropped to the pit of my stomach when I saw him. No one else heard this but me. He said in a deep smoker's voice, "You kids want to make some money?" Weird, right? Anyways, my friend and I looked at each other in shock, but we didn't know what to do. She says she didn't hear him, but I know for sure that's what he said. I immediately tell everyone to get back on the cart and that we are heading back. We didn't see him again, but it still creeps me out. What were his intentions? Why would he be in the middle of the woods? Creepy. There is a reason I don't trust people. One day, I was walking down the road to see my mother. A silver Civic pulled up next to me. I respond very poorly to strangers normally, but that day I made an exception. A mistake. I recognized the face, him from time to time, every other day or so. He lived a few blocks from me in an apartment complex. Seemed like a normal 40-something-year-old male. He seemed nice. He asked if I needed a ride. It was so hot. I hesitated at first, but decided to enter the car because it was so hot outside. Everything seemed fine. He asked me what I did for a living. He said he worked on cars. He also said he had seen me around the neighborhood. I said I'd seen him too. Everything was cool. I told him my stop was a few blocks up. Then his face went blank. I knew something was off immediately. He passed the street I told him to stop at. He didn't even slow down. I asked him to stop. He kept going. His face, cold and blank, turned to me, his eyes ping-ponging back and forth between me and the road. He started spewing disturbing and fragmented sentences. He said I would never have to work again, that he would treat me like a king, that he would take care of me and I would never need to leave him. I told him to stop the car. He told me I just needed to be quiet and listen. I noticed that he carried a belt-clip foldable knife when I entered the car. He had one hand on the wheel, the other passing erratically between his inner thigh and the center armrest. I yelled again for him to stop the car. His hand lunged over and clutched the top of my pants, at the button. He tried to twist the button off. When it didn't work, he tucked his hand halfway down my pants. I grabbed the wheel. We were going maybe 25 or 30. I pulled hard to the right and the car pulled over the curb onto a steep incline hill, past the sidewalk and slammed to a stop. He reached toward his knife, maybe his crotch, but I reacted. 2 hard hits stunned him. In a rage, I tried to break his head through the side window. It only bounced. I jumped out of the car and just sprinted until I couldn't any longer. I couldn't process what had just happened. My hand was bleeding and I was full of adrenaline. I made it to my mother's. I got my ride, but there is a reason I don't trust people.